ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين واللعنة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تعالى في محكم كتابه الحكيم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. من المؤمنين رجال صدقوا ما عاهدوا الله عليه فمنهم من قضى نهبه ومنهم من ينتظر وما بدلوا تبديلا. آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وعلى محمد. Your second salawat for love of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. And your loudest salawat is condolences to Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman. To serve the cause of Islam. To serve the cause of Islam. Eventually, after some time, when the Battle of Mu'tah took place, Ja'far ibn Abi Talib was killed. Sincerity to Rasulullah, only one remained. Rasulullah, only one remained. Rasulullah raised his hands and made a dua. He said, "Oh Allah, you gave me 4 who loved me and who are my generals and my closest who are in the preservation of Islam. 3 have left me. Allah, don't leave me alone." And in reply to that, Allah revealed this verse, that there are those mu'mineen believers who have there is no change, meaning whether their vow was completed as soon as they made it, like Ubaidullah ibn Harith or Hamza, or it's completed at a later point. Was also made this oath with leaving him one by this verse If you look and you see his bravery, there is no one who could fight in a battle like Amir al-Mu'mineen. There is no one who could come in comparison and stand in front of him. When even you discuss the event of Khaybar as showing the azamat of the warfare of Amir al-Mu'mineen, we simplify the effort of Khaybar of saying that Amir al-Mu'mineen lifted a gate that 10 men could not lift. Rather, even 100 could not have lifted the gate had it not been for the help of Allah that gave Ali that ability. If you look at, for example, the speeches of Amir al-Mu'mineen, you would see that the speech of Amir al-Mu'mineen has been collected under the term of Nahjul Balagha. Nahj is the peak of eloquence in speech. That the speeches of Amir al-Mu'mineen would be something that you would ponder over them. And they are studied by people, Muslim and non-Muslim alike, for the excellence that they possess. That how is this, that this is not the word of man, but this is not the word of Allah either, but somewhere in between the two of them you find the speech of Ali. If you look at his justice, you would say that his justice was something that was incomprehensible to people. That's one who would prefer the command of Allah and the justice in humanity over his own self-interest. There are people who accepted Islam because they saw the justice of Ali ibn Abi Talib. That they could not imagine that anyone has a right to be the authority over humanity except one who has justice like Amir al-Mu'mineen. If you saw his humanitarian efforts in his care, the descriptions of Ali ibn Abi Talib showing kindness to orphans and widows, it was something that was incomprehensible. Even when they didn't love him, he loved them. In one narration, one discussion, it happens that Amir al-Mu'mineen sees a woman carrying water from the well. And as he sees her carrying water from the well, this is typically the action of the men, not of the women, to go out of the house to fetch water for the family and bring it home. Amir al-Mu'mineen walking along says, "Woman, is there no one to help you in this?" And she says, "No, I am alone." He says, "Put it down, I'll carry it for you." Amir al-Mu'mineen starts carrying the water. The woman, to compliment him, says, "May Allah judge between you and Ali." Amir al-Mu'mineen stays silent. He goes to this woman's house and finds children there. He says, "Where is your husband? Where is your family?" She says, "My husband was killed fighting for Ali, and then I'm alone doing these affairs myself." Sometime later, Amir al-Mu'mineen, after leaving that water, comes back and he brings with him flour and meat. And he says, "I have brought groceries, I have brought food to your house." She says, "May Allah judge between you and Ali, that how great are you and what Ali has done to my house." Amir al-Mu'mineen says to her without explaining, he says, "Either I can cook the bread from the flour that's here, or I'll take care of the children and you can make the bread." She says, "I will make bread better than you. You take care of the children." Amir al-Mu'mineen begins to play with the children as the woman is busy making the bread. He takes some meat and he starts feeding the children. And as he feeds them, he says, "Oh children, forgive Ali. Forgive Ali." But he never explains who he is. And this woman continues to complain that it is my husband who was killed fighting for this Ali, and now we are in dire circumstance without any help. Eventually, one of the neighbors, seeing the food being cooked in the house, hearing the voices of the children playing, comes to the house. And she complains and she says, "Do you not know who is taking care of your children?" And she says, "No, it's some man who has come to help us. He is being kind to us." She says, "This is the same Ali ibn Abi Talib who you were always complaining about is in your house feeding your children at this moment." She begs the forgiveness of Amir al-Mu'mineen, and Amir al-Mu'mineen in turn begs her forgiveness to say that you were in difficulty and I was not there to assist you. The humanitarian consideration of Amir al-Mu'mineen was such that he would insist the clothing I will wear is the clothing that every Muslim can afford, not better than that. The food I will eat is the food that every Muslim can afford, not better than that. A traveler once came to the city of Medina, or it may have been in the city of Kufa. He comes to the masjid and he finds an old man sitting there alone, breaking bread with his knee to eat. He says, "Old man, give me some food. I am a traveler, I am hungry." The old man gives him food. This traveler says, "Old man, this bread is so hard, I can't eat it. How are you eating it?" He says, "If this bread is too hard, there is a place where you can be fed much better food than what I have." Traveler says, "So why don't you tell me of that place?" He says, "Go to such and such place and sit there and eat there." The traveler goes to this location. He finds a dastarkhan, a sufra laid out. On it is the nicest of foods. And when he comes, no one questions him. They say, "Come sit with us." They welcome him kindly. He sits with them. He sees the food. And as he begins to eat, he eats a little and puts a little bit on the side next to him. The one whose sufra it is, the one whose house he is in, the person he is in, turns and he says, "Oh traveler, if you have a family, don't save food. We'll give you food just for them as well too." The traveler says, "No, it's not that I have a family, but when I was coming here, I saw someone who was eating such food that he could not eat it. So I wanted to offer him aid and assistance. So I thought if I eat something nice, maybe I will bring something nice for that man." The keeper of the house says, "Where was this man that you saw?" He says, "By the masjid." "What did he look like?" "He looked like this and this and this." The man turns and he says, "You have described my father Ali ibn Abi Talib. I am his son Hassan. I would wish that my father would eat the food that is on this table, but my father insists to eat that which is the quality of food that every Muslim can afford, and he will not eat better than this." It was famous of the zuhd of Amir al-Mu'mineen that his food would be served to him from a locked box so that his children would not add something to it and make it nicer than what was intended. This attribute of Amir al-Mu'mineen, if you look, each one is worthy of compliment. Each attribute of Ali ibn Abi Talib is something amazing. So that if you were to describe him in any discussion or any subject, you would find nothing but excellence coming from you. But if you wanted to know what is the attribute of Ali ibn Abi Talib that he is most proud of, or that he was most in love with, you would say that the most valuable attribute that Ali ibn Abi Talib loved was not his bravery, was not his statesmanship, not his humanitarianism, but his ibadat. He loved the ibadat of Allah. Which is why it's not unusual to say that Ali was born in the house of Allah and his shahadat was in the masjid of Allah. That if anything was his most beloved attribute, it would be that he loved to spend time in the worship of Allah. Someone came to the house of Amir al-Mu'mineen and asked one of his servants. They said, "Ali is your master?" And they said, "Yes, he is our master." "Then describe to us the month of Rajab, Sha'ban and Ramadan are the spiritual high season. In which month do you find your master most busy in the ibadat of Allah?" The servant replies and said, "You are asking about us of Rajab, Sha'ban and Ramadan. I swear to you, I have been in this house for a long time. The ibadat of Ali in Shawwal is no different than the ibadat of Ali in Ramadan." Meaning Shawwal, there's no khususiyat. It's not the spiritual high season. But Amir al-Mu'mineen, even in a normal month, used to worship Allah in such a way that we would be lucky to worship Allah in that way in the month of Ramadan. The ibadat of Amir al-Mu'mineen was such that one of the ashab describes, "I passed through the desert one night when Ali was still young. I passed through the desert, and in the desert sound carries." He says, "I could hear someone crying in the ibadat of Allah. In the middle of the desert. I went to go see who was there. From a distance I could see it was Ali ibn Abi Talib, who was crying out to his Lord in ibadat in the middle of the desert away from all of humanity." He describes and he says, "I became infatuated seeing Ali worship Allah like this, so I sat by the side where he could not see me, and I continued to watch him. Until eventually at one time I saw this man in sujood. And all of a sudden his voice stopped coming. As the time came close to Fajr, I intended to see if he had fallen asleep in his ibadat, I would wake him. But when I went to Ali, I found that the signs of life had left him. I cried out, I ran to the house of Ali and called to Fatima, Inna Lillah. From inside the house an answer came, who are you and what do you intend? He says, I have seen Ali in the ibadat of Allah in the desert. I believe he has died from this. Zahra would reply that no, this is a condition that overcomes Ali when he is worshipping Allah. And therefore, wake him with some water and he will awaken. The man says, I returned to that field, I returned to the desert. I found the still body of Ali on the ground. I would shake him, he would not answer. Seeing him in this condition of fear that he had lost consciousness, I began to cry, and as my tears fell on the face of Ali, he woke up. He says, why do I see you crying? He says, I am crying, O Ali, because I see your condition in this way. He says, Amir al-Mu'mineen said to me in that instance, that don't cry over my condition. Cry over the condition of the day of judgment and how difficult it will be. Cry over that condition when you will have to stand in front of Allah in your account and prepare for that moment. This was the attribute of Amir al-Mu'mineen, that he was constantly busy in the ibadat of Allah and he loved the ibadat of Allah. It is no surprise then that tonight is a night of ibadat, that Allah joined the name of the one who loved his ibadat with him. That in this night that is mustahab and recommended, and one of the best things that we can do is the ibadat of Allah, that's so tied is the dhikr of Ali. وَذِكْرُ عَلِيٍّ عِبَادَةً. That this is the time to remember him as well, and to remember that time and to focus on the worship of Allah for all of us, and to take this opportunity. The ibadat of Amir al-Mu'mineen is nothing that can be understood by the average mind. Rather, you took a look at Sayyid al-Sajideen, Zainul Abidin, Ali ibn al-Hussein, salamullahi alayhi. The description says what? That his son Imam al-Baqir one day comes and sees his father after an exhaustive session of ibadat. Meaning Imam Baqir is saying, I saw my father do ibadat of Allah that he had never done before. That took extreme strenuous activity. As I worried about the condition of my father, Imam Zainul Abidin, my father said to me, Oh Baqir, bring for me the notes or the book or the writing in such and such location. The narration is famous. Imam Baqir brings the writing. Imam Zainul Abidin reads it, and as he reads it, the scroll falls from his hand. And he says, no one can worship Allah like the worship of Ali ibn Abi. Understand the significance of that statement. Allah was not just a routine, was not just something that is part of the process that I did the minimum that I needed to, or I did what I had to. Rather, the ibadat of Amir al-Mu'mineen and the ibadat of the sons of Amir al-Mu'mineen was such that they would constantly be attempting to show new and greater ways of their love and adornment of Allah. When Imam Zainul Abidin spends this entire night in doing worship of Allah in such a way that Imam Baqir is afraid to look at his condition, is worried about his father, it's a demonstration to show that Imam Zainul Abidin would constantly be through his life pushing himself for the worship of Allah. And that no matter how much he pushed himself in the worship of Allah, Imam Ali was the one who was even more in pushing himself than what Imam Zainul Abidin could do. The question is for us that how important is the ibadat of Allah to us? How often are we pushing ourselves in the worship of Allah and doing the dhikr and the remembrance of Allah and increasing in our ibadat and attempting new ways of showing our love and worship to Allah? Maybe it's a dua I've never read. Maybe it's a ziyarat I've never read before. Maybe it's an a'mal I haven't done before. We are those who simply become afraid when you say, recite Salat Jafar at-Tayyar, we say, no, I'm busy right now, I can't do it. Amir al-Mu'mineen was that one who was constantly looking at the love of Allah and spending time in His ibadat. He was constantly in a condition where the love of Allah was his priority. Which is why, when they took Amir al-Mu'mineen from the masjid to his house, on the morning of the 19th, there's a description that says that Amir al-Mu'mineen was unable to walk himself. He said, "Bring for me a burlap cloth, O Hassan, O Hussein, because I can't walk in this moment." There are 3 times in the Tariq of Ahlul Bayt that a burlap cloth has been mentioned. One is this instance where Amir al-Mu'mineen could not walk from the masjid to his house, that he made Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein to lay out a cloth, place Amir al-Mu'mineen on top of it, and Imam Hassan would take it from one side, Imam Hussein from the other, and from the other side the ashab would carry. The second instance that you see this is in the shahadat of the Mazloom Musa ibn Ja'far. That's when Imam Musa ibn Ja'far was poisoned in the prison. The slaves that were appointed to carry his body to the bridge used a burlap cloth upon which they placed your Imam and then took him out to the bridge and placed him on the bridge. The third instance where you heard this is the field of Karbala. When Hussein ibn Ali came to his nephew Qasim's body, he called and said, "O children of the Banu Hashim, bring me some cloth. The body of my nephew has been split in so many pieces. Hussein can't lift the body itself." So a burlap cloth was brought then. This first burlap cloth that was brought, Amir al-Mu'mineen lay on this cloth until they came to about the door of the house. And he said, "Now, Hassan, Hussein, help me stand up." Amir al-Mu'mineen stood again. He leaned on his son from one side. He leaned on his son from the other side. And he walked into the house. You would ask that Imam who could not walk a moment ago, when he comes to the house, why does he insist upon standing now? It was because inside of the house were his daughters waiting to see him. He did not want to frighten them with his condition. So therefore he insisted that if I am to return to the house, "Oh Hassan, oh Hussein, help me walk into the house so they may not see my condition this way." But even in this condition it is described that the weeping of the women began with great pain as their father came into the house. Habib ibn Amir narrates on the 20th of Ramadan, I came to see Amir al-Mu'mineen. When I entered the house, I found that the Quraysh and the heads of the Quraysh of Kufa were standing in a corner, their heads bowed. I saw in another area the sons of Banu Hashim. They had covered their faces, but they were crying silently where you could see the sobbing coming from their bodies. He says, but I heard no one make a noise in their crying as they sat by Ali. When I looked upon Amir al-Mu'mineen, I found him laying on the bed, and he was tracing his finger over the wound in his head from where he had been struck. He was tracing the same wound as when he was struck in the battle of Khandaq. I said to Amir al-Mu'mineen, "Oh Amir al-Mu'mineen, you are a mountain, you are mighty. This is but a small wound. What is a scratch to a mountain? Oh Ali, you will certainly survive this event." Amir al-Mu'mineen turned to me and said, "Oh Habib, the affair has been set. My time on this earth is coming to a completion." Amir al-Mu'mineen knew this with certainty. Why? Because when he was struck, there were two sounds made in the Masjid of Kufa. One was Ali himself who called out, "Fuztu wa Rabbil Kaaba." The other was the one who was the brother of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Allah wallahi huddamat arkan al-huda. The other one who cried out in pain was the angel of Allah, Jibreel, who had been present in the Masjid of Kufa. As Amir al-Mu'mineen was struck, the crying of Jibreel began. The majlis of the malaika began in the heavens. Jibreel would call out, "Certainly the pillars and the foundations of guidance have been broken. Certainly The cousin of Rasulullah is killed. Certainly the brother of Rasulullah has been killed. The buqa of the malaika began in this instance, and they have begun their weeping from the 19th. Therefore, O Habib, I know my time has come. It is time for me to leave. It was these words that when they were heard, certainly behind the curtain, a cry arose and weeping began on the women's side. Amir al-Mu'mineen again became uncomfortable. He recognized the voice and called out, Kulthum, why do you weep? She says, Baba, you were giving news that you are leaving us. How can I not weep? Amir al-Mu'mineen tries to comfort his daughter. He says, oh my daughter, here is my brother Rasulullah. Here are the Anbiya waiting for me. I am lonely without your grandfather Rasulullah. How I miss my brother that I have been without him for 30 years. Oh Kulthum, do you not know how much I miss your mother Zahra? My time has come to return to them. Kulthum began and continued weeping. The crying in the house of Ali spread. Habib explains that we left the house. It was told to us that this would be the last night in which Ali would be with us. Amir al-Mu'mineen has wept 2 times in the past 3 days. One is that instance when he came home and his daughter saw his red beard for the first time. The second is after the wasiyah were complete, when he could not comfort his daughters. Ali is that one who would comfort a crying orphan. These are the children of Zahra. How does he give them patience in this moment when he himself is difficulty? Until eventually they said it is this night of ibadah that Ali, eventually the sweat of death overcame his brow. His breathing became shallow. His hands began to open and close from the pain, until eventually the soul of Ali left his body. My commander, my imam, my father is the one who died in this night. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. As it is the night of Qadr, we raise our hands in dua. ندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم. 10 times we call out. Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah. Ya Mahmud بحق محمد يا أعلى بحق علي يا فاطر السماوات بحق فاطمة يا محسن بحق الحسن يا قديم الأحسان بحق الحسين. Ya Allah, accept this ibadat from us. Ya Allah, give the thawab of this majlis, of this ibadat, of all of our ibadat, to our marhumin, all those who have passed away and who have no one to make dua for them. Ya Allah, we have gathered here with hajat. Fulfill our hajat by the wasila of Amir al-Mu'mineen. There are those amongst our families, our community, the mu'mineen who are suffering through sickness and difficulty. Give shafa'at to the mu'mineen wherever they are. Ya Allah, those suffering through strife and insecurity, give aman to the mu'mineen wherever they are suffering now. Ya Allah, keep us and our family and our children on the upright path of Islam. Ya Allah, hasten the reappearance of Sahib al-Zaman. Make us and our families from the supporters of Sahib al-Zaman. Entitle us the ziyarat of Ahlul Bayt in this world and the shafa of Ahlul Bayt in the hereafter. Remembering all of our marhumin in this night, remembering all those who we give to the care and the wasila of Amir al-Mu'mineen. 1 Surah Fatiha, 3 times Surah Ikhlas, with your loudest of salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Khususan if we can do a Fatiha for Marhum Ali Nabi Zada. Marhum Ali Nabi Zada, 1 Surah Fatiha.
عظم الله لك الأجر يا رسول الله. Stay seated please. عظم الله لك الأجر.